Good afternoon, everyone. You're very welcome. We're celebrating the best of British here today, and you're going to see some pretty spectacular sporting moments over the past year. I should warn you, we have just come out of an Olympics, so the sporting year for this occasion is from July 2015 to July 2016. We will be talking Olympics very soon, though, and you're all part of this because we're going to show you what we think and what everyone has decided are the 6 best sporting moments over the course of the year, and you're going to vote on which one you think is the best. Now, you can change your mind over the course of the next hour, and our esteemed panel here will try and change your mind as they put forward the case for their very own sports. So it's quite fitting, I suppose, that as we celebrate British sports, most of them are English sports, that we should have 2 Irishmen and a Welshman up on the stage here today. But you know, they're pretty good pedigree, I have to say. And also, to balance the books, we have 2 very well-known English sports stars as well. We start with Mark Blundell. Mark is a proper petrol head. Why? Because he started life on 2 wheels in motocross, and then over 60 Grand Prix, 6 podiums over his career as well, and a well-known voice and face of the world of Formula One. A BAFTA-winning Formula One commentator with ITV back in the day as well. It's good to have you here, Mark. Thanks very much for coming along. Alongside him, Ireland, the world's Brian O'Driscoll, 141 international caps. I always have to check that I get them right because there's so many of them, but 133 for Ireland, 8 British and Irish Lions caps as well. Without doubt, the most successful Irish rugby player ever to have played. He has beaten England single-handedly 8 times as well, which is marvellous, and also now a face of BT Sport. Alongside him, Robbie Savage, who started his professional career at Manchester United, but really with Leicester City is where he made his mark. Over 172 appearances and also 39 for Wales as well. And Robbie obviously simply glowing for most of last season and this season because Leicester City having such an absolutely fantastic year. Robbie, of course, known across many TV stations, BBC, 5 Live, 606, and of course a key member of the BT Sport football team. So it's really good to have him with us today as well. And it's particularly exciting to have, fresh off the plane from Rio, without doubt, the most successful female amateur boxer of all time, Britain's very own Nicola Adams, ladies and gentlemen. The only boxer to retain their title at the Olympics. That is absolutely unbelievable. Well done, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're back, what, 2 days?
Yeah, literally just got off the plane. It's all been a bit surreal, to be honest. All the well dones and congratulations, and I guess it just showed to me like how much everybody had been supporting us, even though they weren't in Rio. Like the support that we've had back home has been absolutely phenomenal, so I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for all the support. I
think we should be saying the thank you. It was such a wonderful, wonderful moment when you got that second goal. Shall we remind ourselves of it? Yeah, should we do that? Have a look at this. You're going to have to do about 150 gold medal selfies after this, which could be probably a bigger challenge than winning that. What a wonderful occasion. Just remind us of your thoughts in the ring when the bout finally finished up.
Yeah, I was just so happy, and I was just thinking, yes, I've done it, double Olympic champion, like back to back as well. And I just remember thinking, going onto the podium, about how hard I'd worked over the past 4 years, shoulder operation, after the Commonwealth Games, and then ankle injuries just last year, and then coming into this year, 3 major tournaments back to back in the last 5 months. Became European champion, world champion, and then double Olympic champion. So yeah, it feels amazing, doing the most.
You left a Commonwealth champion as well.
Yeah, Commonwealth champion as well.
So, I mean, what do you do next? You've done all that. The pro ranks calling, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely something that I'd like to have a go at, break down some barriers there, and who knows, maybe become a double world champion there, and I can always come back and do the amateurs as well, Tokyo as well.
It's fantastic. So I've seen
Triple champion in Tokyo.
Nicola's been backstage just eating chocolate and bags of jellies and cans of Red Bull, and you deserve every bit of it. Thanks for coming today. It's great to see you here. You know, getting some wear out of that tracksuit as well. I've seen you on TV wearing that quite a lot of late. Hopefully give you a few of them. we're going to obviously discuss the other sports that have been voted top 6 so far. We're going to just remind ourselves, though, of the last year from July to July and some of the great moments. Have a look at this. So, a lot there. We have chosen 6. Our panel of experts have chosen 6. You're going to vote on them today, so if you download the Edinburgh Television Festival app, if you haven't done it already, and you can see, you can vote. You can also ask questions of our panel as well throughout the course of the next hour or so. But Mark, when you look at it packaged up there, pretty tasty 12 months, right?
Oh, it's incredibly impressive. And I have to say, just for Nicola, incredibly proud to come from this nation. We're so small, and what we achieved over the last couple of weeks in the Olympics, I think, is unbelievable. So sport in general, I think, is on the up. They've done okay across the pond, Brian, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and we didn't even see anything about the Ashes. I'm not a big cricket fan. In fact, I didn't even really know that we played cricket in Ireland until we beat England a few years ago. But you see, it just seems there's so much competition for what was the best sporting success of the year, and just topped off with what we saw over the last 3 weeks in the Olympics. It was really, really special from a Great Britain point of view, and obviously as an Irishman looking on, you look on with huge envy, but admiration for the manner in which they conduct themselves and the success that they've had, and to finish second on the medals table is quite the achievement.
I did speak to a Welshman the other day who told me that if you're to go per capita, it would be Wales would be the most successful Olympic nation in the world. I don't know if that's true, Robbie, but that's
I have no idea.
That's what the Welsh are saying out there. 67 medals though in the Olympics, a sensational haul, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was sports which you turn the TV on and you never think you'd like. All them sports from taekwondo to swimming, diving, trampolining. The women's hockey team as well. I think that was an amazing achievement, and staying up all night to watch it all was amazing. Nicola was fantastic.
Yeah, it was weird journey. But you after 3 days of gymnastics, you think, how can I live without gymnastics in my life? You just get hooked on all the little stories. The athletes themselves. What were you watching when you weren't competing?
Oh, I was watching a bit of everything: the athletics, gymnastics, the diving, and beach volleyball, like everything really.
How's your rugby? You like rugby?
Yeah.
Good stuff. We're going to start with that, and we're going to go back to 12 months ago. The Rugby World Cup was in England, and the English team had an absolute disaster, knocked out in the pool stages on their home turf at Twickenham. But what a turnaround. Eddie Jones came on board. They won the Grand Slam, and then they went off to Australia, a 3-match series, which they won. It was sensational. Have a look at this. That was an England hooker chipping a ball through, unheard of in the annals of English rugby, incredible. Put forward the argument, Brian, for people to vote for that as the sporting moment of the year.
Yeah, I think you're confident when your hooker is taking the piss out of the nation that finished runners-up in last year's World Cup. I think it's important to put it in context from a rugby point of view, that the side that they beat 3-0 down in Australia, the first time that it's ever been done, a series win by an English team, was the same side that beat them 33-13 in the World Cup, that humiliated them in Twickenham. So to turn that around from a mentality point of view in particular, everyone knows that England have great players, but it's a huge amount of the game is the top 3 or 4 inches. And obviously the Eddie Jones factor coming in, the way he's turned around the same group of players. He hasn't changed a whole lot from a personnel point of view, so he's got those group of players that were beaten so badly in the World Cup, and got them playing a fantastic brand. That he's got them playing brilliantly in set piece, the English way, really dominant, no backward step. I think that old English team under the previous management were afraid of of indiscretions, of indiscipline. That was a big component under Stuart Lancaster. Eddie Jones has wiped that away. In fact, he's gone and made Dylan Hartley captain. This is a guy that has served more bans than Robbie Savage has had bad haircuts. So,
Nicola.
So to have the wherewithal to go and do that, and empower his team to go and play the aggressive brand that is synonymous with successful English teams, I think typifies where this English team has gone. And it's just the small things that he does, where he messages his team within the media. So 4 weeks after they won the Grand Slam, a great achievement, first one since '03, he called a press conference and he told the press that were listening that there's 4 or 5 players from that Grand Slam team that aren't going to make the summer tour. And everyone was wondering who that is. But you could be sure all the players were reading the press going, I wonder, am I one of those 5? I better pull my socks up. So it's just different ways of driving new standards. And he uses the media brilliantly. He did it with great effect down in Australia. I think he had the media eating out of their hand. And then, when you win a 3-test series, after the first game, he said we've so much to improve on. He was disappointed with it. After the second game, winning the series, it wasn't we won the series. It was like, nah, we came here to win whitewash, and to have done it 3-0 down in Australia is a remarkable turnaround in a year.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people watch the Six Nations on terrestrial television, and it's watched by 6, 7, 8 million. Less so with those autumn tours, and a lot of people think maybe the Grand Slam was the bigger deal. But you're saying that the autumn series,
yeah,
the
I think
summer
so.
series is bigger?
I think so. I sat at a dinner after the Grand Slam, and I sat beside Eddie Jones, and he was the MC of the night was Martin Bayfield, a colleague of ours, and he congratulated Eddie on achieving a Grand Slam, and he kind of took the plaudits, and then he kind of whispered to me, saying, God, you guys really love a Grand Slam. But you got the impression that he wasn't overly impressed with what they'd done, that going down and winning a series in Australia was really where it's at. Obviously an Australian himself, he's been head coach of the Australian team, got them to that World Cup final in 2003 that England won. So he knows what the Australians are capable of, and so to have overturned them in his head was absolutely the greater achievement.
Well, there you go. If Brian has convinced you that's the sporting moment of the year, get voting. Any questions you have as well through the app, and we'll get to the guys and Nicola over the course of the day. We're going to move on to tennis now. And you had to go back to 1936. King Edward was on the throne, and Bunny Austin, Fred Perry were part of England's, Great Britain's Davis Cup team that won a Davis Cup. And then Andy Murray and his team came along, and something sensational happened. Let's have a reminder. Robbie, I'm going to let you fight tennis's cause. I know you watched a lot of it closely. Didn't you? Yeah, you have now, mate. Robbie Savage, big tennis fan with us here today. It was often seen as Andy Murray's Davis Cup. It was, of course, a team effort, and sensational, really. 1936, a long all time. Why should we be celebrating that as the great British sporting moment?
Well, you shouldn't, basically. No, it was a fantastic achievement. Just solely because, Andy Murray, the pressure was on his shoulders, and we were speaking backstage that, can you name Britain's number 2 and 3 men's tennis players? I don't know if anybody can. There you go. That's why it was such a great success. I think there was one game where, I think it was Kyle Edmund or was it James Ward who got a crucial point in one of the games when Andy Murray wasn't there, and I think that was the point that really got them to the final. So I think for them to win it, and I think the Davis Cup in our country is not as celebrated as is in other countries. When you see Croatia and all them countries play, the crowd and everything. When I watch the Davis Cup, the atmosphere is incredible. It's unlike any other tennis match. So I think it was a fantastic achievement. I do like my tennis, but part of me thinks if it wasn't for Andy Murray, would they have won it? Because he is an unbelievable player. The Murray brothers in the doubles were great, but it was a fantastic achievement. I've made my case as best as I can.
It's also one of their rare opportunities that they get to play in an individual sport. They get to play in a team environment, a bit like the golfers in the Ryder Cup. So they absolutely embrace it. And other than Jamie Murray, he's known as Andy Murray's brother. I wouldn't have known anyone else within the team, which makes it, an even greater achievement that they must have had an incredible amount of team spirit to have pulled together, to have really fought for one another, to have managed to achieve what they did.
Nicola, do you find inspiration in great British sporting moments like that? Would you have watched that and said, the impossible is possible as such?
Oh yeah, definitely. I always go down Wimbledon and watch Andy play, and it's amazing watching it on TV, especially watching it live as well. You really see how much effort they're putting into the game. So yeah, I guess it's one of the sporting moments, but I've got my favourite.
Sorry, Robbie, I thought you were a tennis fan because you got one of Jeremy Bates's jumpers around your waist. My apologies on that one. Sorry about that. Right, we're going to move into Formula One, and Lewis Hamilton, we know, a great hero of everyone in the motorsport world, but one of his goals in his career was to match Ayrton Senna's record of 3 World Championship titles, and he did it this time out. Have a look at this. How big a deal, Mark? How big a deal?
I think it's a huge deal. Because you have to look at Lewis Hamilton as an inspirational sports person and see what he's achieved. He's come as a young lad, 11 years old, going up to the likes of Ron Dennis, the big boss of McLaren, and telling him that one day he will be world champion and telling him that he wants to drive for him. And actually, if you come from inside the sport, you've seen this child actually been massaged and manipulated and also, you know, educated. And it's almost like a piece of software. Every year they improved him. And you'll see in the end result now, and he's almost unstoppable. Triple world champion, looks like he's going to win it again. And you have to process the information that goes in for these guys as well. And it's interesting, Brian just touched on something, and it's that 1% club. The best guys in sport, it's the 3 or 4 inches that sit on top of their shoulders. And Lewis Hamilton actually is the pinnacle of that, because when you watch him on circuit, off circuit, he's always got something there that's being done for a reason. Whether that's turning the wheel at the right moment, whether it's into somebody or whether it's through a corner. At the same time, whether he's saying something to get his message across inside the team or outside. You know, he's so good. And I don't think there's anyone around at the minute in British motorsport who's at the same level, because he really makes it look easy. I'm not saying that he's everyone's cup of tea. He's doing things at the moment which, I'll be honest, I can't understand completely. As a former sports person, I'm trying to understand how he can keep the pace off the track as well as on the track. 21 Grand Prix during a season, and 1 minute he's in LA and the next minute he's in Russia doing a Grand Prix, but he still wins. And he does it because he is that good. You know, he's probably 2/10, 3/10 of a second, and that doesn't sound much to everyone here, but in our business it's huge. And he's got the best equipment, but so's his teammate, and that's how you reference guys, you know, when they're sitting in the same machinery. And when things go wrong, he still pulls himself up and still delivers. And for me, that's part of the journey that we watch. And it is a journey, and that's what we see on TV every other weekend. We're seeing this guy come through this championship and doing everything he needs to do as and when. But bear in mind that, you know, he's got 850 people behind him. That goes down to 60 people at a weekend, and then everything sits on his shoulders for 2 hours. And there's a huge amount of information being processed and still driving at 200 miles an hour. You know, so he might have had a microphone stuck in his face before a Grand Prix, but then he does the job. And I still think, you know, I'm biased obviously, that those guys are pretty special guys.
Do you think all of us, all the fans, do you think media, us the media, have to kind of remind ourselves of that story, that first World Championship win, and that journey to that story? Because we get a bit kind of clouded by, you know, the bling and, you know, the recording studio and all that malarkey, don't we?
Yeah, maybe he might go on to be a big rap star.
No, that's never going to happen. You've heard his music, you know that's never going to happen.
I can't comment. But anyway, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's we've seen a lot of his journey for our own, you know, benefit. We've seen from that youngster and coming through the system, and maybe more than other sports because it's been focused on quite a lot. But I think we do have to remind ourselves how good he is. You know, when you match the likes of an Ayrton Senna, someone in my generation was up there, and he's going to surpass that. And, you know, he might even go on to be equalising Michael Schumacher with 7 world titles. It's not far away from happening. So, yeah, he's a special guy. Formula One will be lost without him at the moment. So, you know, we need to make sure he's still over this side of the pond.
I have one question. The animosity that's clear between him and Rosberg with Mercedes, is it something that they enjoy within Mercedes, or is it a headache to them? And do you think essentially is it good for the sport from a promotional point of view just because it generates talking points?
If I'm brutally honest, I think it's good for the sport, because outside of that, we pretty much watch a procession. So we need to have some of that happening. And that's something F1 needs to fix, and it needs to fix it fast. But at the same time, it's a headache for Mercedes-Benz. This is one of the biggest brands in the world, and they've got to try and manage those personalities. But that's what sport's all about. You know, it's managing those personalities, whether it's 11 of us or 1 of us, and it takes good management. And I think they're doing a great job. But is it real between them? It's very real. You know, you only have to walk into the back of the garage and see that there's no love lost. But that's been a system, you know, that was in place a long time ago, and because of the competitive element now, they've grown apart.
It's great entertainment though for us. We like that. We like a little bit of niggle. Not so much niggle when it comes to Chris Froome. He's just kind of gone about his business in Tour de France very nicely indeed. Another guy who's kind of quiet and not perhaps the biggest personality out there, but my word, he is good. Have a look at this. only the 8th rider to win 3 tours. The guy is absolutely unbelievable, and sometimes I feel from Nicola because he is a quiet, reserved kind of guy, but he's gone about his business so professionally, and they try to sling mud at him sometimes out in the roads a little bit more than that. And it's been hard to watch at times because the guy's a great athlete, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's an amazing athlete. He's done really well in the cycling. Yeah, he's not a bigger character, I guess, as Bradley Wiggins, but his dedication and you can see in his face when you see him cycling how determined he is to win. And I guess that's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter so much, I don't think, about his character outside. It's his character when he's competing and that will to win.
And you know how tough it is. I guess you cycle a lot for your training. You know how tough it is out there, right?
Yeah. No, I actually do quite a bit of cycling, so I know how tough it is on the legs.
Robbie,
I think one of the best moments we've seen this year was when he fell off his bike and then he was running up the hill. You know, I think that shows how much the dedication and the desire, you know, to be a winner. Because them shots of him when he was running up the hill to finish was incredible.
It's interesting those moments stick. I think back in Athens, a guy called Mark Jenkins in the triathlon, similar situation in the bike section, bike over the shoulder, running up. It made all those slow-mo kind of videos at the end that make you cry. But that shows the spirit of the man. And sometimes we should judge him by that kind of thing rather than what he does in the press conference afterwards, right?
Yeah, as Nicola said, he's not as big a character as Bradley Wiggins, but you know, in the Olympics he wasn't himself, was he really? But he finished 3rd or 4th in the time trial, and then I think he's currently 3rd in the Vuelta de España, is it, a race at the minute now? So, you know, what an athlete. You know, I ride a bike, and, you know, for them to do it every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, what an athlete, dedication.
But the television cameras just liked Bradley Wiggins more, I guess, Brian. It's weird,
yeah, they do. Listen, he's that bubbly personality. We saw it in the Olympics again. You know, he's kind of vivacious and fun-loving, and Chris Froome just goes about his business a bit, you know, quieter, but yet he's still doing the same work. I think he probably, I get the impression that he had to play second fiddle during Bradley Wiggins' year when he won the Tour de France, and he bided his time, and now who knows how many Tour de France he might win in years to come. I think Indurain, you know, with Armstrong's 7 struck off, I think Indurain has won the most in 5, so I'm sure he's looking at that and thinking, you know, I can certainly achieve that and more. He's certainly talking about it and saying, I feel I've got 4 or 5 more in him, and with a team like Sky behind him as well, the sky's the limits. There you go.
Very good. Don't ever say that again. Let's talk about one of your pals, Anthony Joshua. What an incredible career he's had so far. You know, one of the fastest guys ever to become a world champion in terms of turning pro. 2.5 years, a year faster than the great Muhammad Ali. But let's remind ourselves of what it was like when he became world champion. Yeah, incredible boxer, incredible athlete, and a really good guy. And a lot of boxing fans out there, Nicola, would say, you know, right, you got Tyson Fury, who's a world champion, but that's the kind of figurehead they want for boxing. Anthony Joshua more so. He just kind of is a more acceptable figure because Tyson Fury has been so controversial. How important is he to the sport?
Oh, he's huge to the sport. I mean, as well, I know people think that, oh, well, maybe the guy that he boxed for the world title wasn't as good an opponent as, say, Tyson Fury beating Klitschko. But what you've got to think about as well with Anthony Joshua is he turned professional after winning a gold medal in 2012. And then there's already expectation for him to become a world champion. He's got to deal with the pressures, the expectation of, right, everybody is expecting you to win this. You are supposed to be a world champion. You're boxing in front of 20,000 people in the arena and God knows how many millions around the world, and you've still got to pull this off. This other guy is in the ring against you to try and do exactly the same thing. So when you put that into respect, there's nobody else in that ring to help you. It is just you. You know, there's, as much as the coaches tell you the tactics in the corner, when you go out into that ring and the bell goes, you're by yourself. So I really admire that about him, as well as him being a humble and genuinely nice guy. He's still got that mentality to stay focused and be able to deal with the pressure and the media and still come away with a victory.
And to defend a title, you know what that's like. And a lot of sports people, I'm sure these guys will agree, you know, the expectation of winning is far harder than the anticipation in terms of pressure. Is that
yeah, it is definitely. I think when you're the underdog, it's always a lot easier. You've got nothing to lose. If you lose, it's a win. You know, nobody expected you to win, and if you win, then you know it's a bonus you've won. So. But yeah, when you go in and you're defending champion, the pressure's on, and again it's how you take it. And we've seen a lot of champions in the past crumble at that. So yeah, you put that into respect. I know what it's like to be in a defending champion and have everybody else coming after you, all the underdogs coming after you, and you've just got to. You've got to really focus and not let anything deter you. And he showed that he's got that ability. He's got that champion's mind, that mindset that he can achieve anything. So yeah, I really like that about him.
And will the headlines of him retaining titles, winning titles, take over from the Fury Klitschko fights in time? Do you think he'll become bigger?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's got plenty of time on his side, and let's not forget he was an amateur boxer for maybe 4 or 5 years. He's still got so much more to come with in terms of technique, strength, speed and power as well. He's got a lot more to learn. He hasn't had that many fights, and he's already a world champion. So there's definitely a lot more to come from him.
What's your fight record, Robbie?
Well, as I've shown you my superior and great knowledge of tennis and cycling, I think my boxing. See, I'm a boxing fan, and I think Fury's achievement beating Klitschko in Germany was a greater achievement than Joshua winning the IBF title. I don't know what you think. I'd like to know what you think. What was the best achievement?
I think you can't knock that achievement, but then I argue the fact that Klitschko wasn't at his best. He had a really serious calf injury. He had a tear. So
you don't punch with your calves.
Yeah, but you've got to be. It's about footwork. You get your power from your legs, and you know that movement and that power is not there. So it could have changed. It could have changed the fight completely. Let's not forget that Tyson's already pulled out of 2 rematches so far. So you know it's.
But Klitschko was not beaten, was it? 10 years.
Yeah.
There's definitely likability factor too there, right? That is, you know, sometimes it hazes your opinion on what might have been the bigger achievement. Does Anthony Joshua have a lot more of a fan base than Tyson Fury? He certainly does. But I'm with Robbie too. I think actually going to Germany over to Klitschko territory and managing to beat a guy that's been unbeaten for the best part of a decade is phenomenal. Yeah, he's potentially heading off running now at the moment. Not with a bad calf, he's not. But he's going to have to step up to the plate at some stage, and whether he can do it again, that might even be the greater achievement again if he can back it up.
Well, the audience are going to decide which is the greatest one.
One more question: do you think if it had a fight right now, and they were both fit, Fury or Joshua?
Joshua all day.
And you're not going to argue with her, are you? Good stuff. We need to talk football. We need to talk Leicester City and what they achieved last year. It was absolutely incredible. Here's a reminder. Robbie, you're going to wax lyrical in a moment about all that. But Mark, just, football's not your sport. You weren't involved in football. But that season, just everybody came on board. Everyone became a Leicester City fan. Were you one of them?
I'm an Arsenal supporter, so I've got my own problems, as have they. But listen, I have to say, as a sporting achievement, from what I watched over the course of the Premier League, I have to take my hat off to Leicester. I think it was an incredible performance. And the one thing that really stood out for me is every time I watched them play, there was not one player on that pitch that didn't run for the ball for 100% of the human effort they had, didn't go for every single tackle, didn't make sure that they had their head up and made every single pass count. They wanted it. And I watch Premier League football teams at times, and I look at them, I go, even my own team, Arsenal, I go, you don't want it as a team. But Leicester did. And it was incredible. And I think, I don't know if you've been to Leicester lately. Yeah, I have. There's a buzz there. Yeah. It wasn't there 2 years ago. It's done an incredible amount for the city. Fantastic.
Robbie, at what stage did you believe Was it the Tottenham draw? Was it their final game? What was it?
It was probably 5 games before the end of the season, because up until then I thought it's not going to happen. 5,000 to 1 odds before the start of the season. When the manager got appointed, I think there was a lot of criticism. I think he was manager of Greece and they lost to the Faroe Islands, and then he got the Leicester City job and there was a bit of negativity around that. And then for them to produce these performances week in, week out, they only lost 3 games all season. 2 of those were to Arsenal and 1 was to Liverpool. They went through the whole season. The Jamie Vardy story, in non-league football 4 or 5 years ago to breaking the record. The season before, just Nigel Pearson saved them from going down with, they were down at Christmas. I think only West Brom have survived from that position as well. So it's just a whole couple of seasons for Leicester City, and for them to do it in the way they did, in style. They had a way of playing, and everybody said, well, why haven't teams worked them out? But they couldn't. They had Vardy's pace. Mahrez was incredible. Wes Morgan at the back, he was making mistakes the previous season. They eradicated them. They had free transfers. It was just, we're never going to see it again.
Why did it happen?
Well, they just, as the guys say, they had this incredible team spirit. If somebody made a tackle, they'd be patting each other on the back. They knew exactly what they were doing. Everybody on the training ground, they work hard. They're a good bunch of lads. They all get on. You can see that. A manager who knows what he's doing. The coach Craig Shakespeare, who's now Big Sam's coach. So the whole club and the fans played a massive part, because the atmosphere was incredible, and we'll never see it again. I don't think we will never see it again. A team at 5,000 to 1, the biggest odds I think ever in a sporting event, have gone on to win the title. Just goes to show you don't have to spend massive amounts of money. Obviously now the teams have come back this year with United and City. Spending Chelsea, spending all this money, Liverpool. So we won't see it again, because if you'd have said before the start of the season, Leicester this season, where will Leicester finish? People wouldn't have them in their top 10, and I think that's how. It's just incredible. So that has to be the best one. It's just never going to happen again. And as you say, they were everybody's second favourite team.
Yeah, it was a great season. It was just such a great drama to unfold. And I know you have stated publicly that if it happens again this season, but with Hull, you will appear on BT Sport Naked. So we wish Man United the best of luck with the season ahead. Scores so far: rugby and football 25% each in terms of the best British sporting moment outside of the Olympics. 20% for tennis, cycling 11%, boxing just 9%. You've got a lot of heads to smack in. Formula 1 7%. We'll keep it going. Thanks for all your questions as well. TV type questions here. I'm going to start with you, Mark, on this one. Which sport do you think should have a higher profile on television?
Tough. You know what? After watching the Olympics and watching the women's hockey, I'd love to watch more of it. I really would. Outside of women's volleyball, beach volleyball, I think it was fantastic. But I felt it was a really entertaining sport to watch. And when it got down to the penalties, we were talking about that earlier, the way that they were taken and the buzz about it, it's something that I would actually sit there and watch. And I guess we associate hockey with private schools and it's not really mainstream sport, but I thought as a sport it was fantastic. I
should put my hands up here. Obviously I work for BT Sport, but we do show hockey now. Okay, maybe we foresaw what was going to happen. How about boxing? How about women's boxing? Would you like to see more of it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see a lot more women's boxing on television, especially because it's inspiring so many people to get involved in the sport. I mean, I saw the increase after 2012, and God knows what's going to happen now with me. Double Olympic title.
You can say that as often as you want.
It would be nice to see a bit more women's boxing.
Someone out there asks, how are we helping as broadcasters, and do we think there should be more women involved in sports broadcasting? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, why not? Who knows? Maybe I could be doing some commentating. But yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good to see, I think, as well. Open up the doors and give a lot more women a lot more opportunity.
I have to say, we do have, in all the sports we have in BT, I'm sorry to fly the flag here, but I have to, but all the sports we do have female presenters and commentators and pundits in all of them, and hey, we're all in the same boat. It's great crack. Robbie, question: did you mean to get the same haircut as Nicola?
Yeah, double income champion.
Yeah. It's the Adams effect.
Just talking about sport and television in general, and I suppose the Leicester City had such an advantage in that we saw the drama unfold over the course of 8 months. And boxing, sometimes it can be just 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. Football is still, it's the tent pole, isn't it, for all sports broadcasters, Robbie? It's the one that draws in the crowds.
Yeah, it is. And obviously now with Leicester City, the Champions League draw, it's just 5 o'clock on BT this afternoon, and luckily for us as a channel, we've got the Champions League, and anybody wants to be there. I didn't play in the Champions League, so for me to go as a broadcaster to all these massive stadiums, to be involved in it, and what BT have done in broadcasting, obviously they put the Champions League final was on YouTube last year, so that was great, and it's some are free to air. So what is BT as a channel doing is trying to make it more accessible for people. So the Champions League, in terms of, it's like the old Heineken Cup, I suppose. What's it called now?
Champions Cup.
The Champions Cup. So you want to be involved in the best. So the Champions League in Leicester City is just, it's a mess. I still can't believe it.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it is the perfect sports story, really, isn't it? On the weekend, Mark, I was over at the Czech Grand Prix, and Britain's Cal Crutchlow won the MotoGP race, the first Briton to do it in 35 years since Barry Sheene. I think only of us in the MotoGP bubble, really, and the 400,000 or 500,000 people that watched it will be celebrating it. Yes, it's a massive sports story. Formula One, on the other hand, they're celebrating Lewis, of course, and how the championships panned out over the past few seasons. Eyes on the sport, does that affect how people perceive how big or small the victory was, or the championship title was?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, MotoGP, if anyone's ever watched it, it's an incredibly entertaining sport, and those guys are incredible athletes in their own right. The funny thing is like you just mentioned one name, Barry Sheene. Probably audience know the name Barry Sheene more than what they know Carl Crutchlow. But what Carl Crutchlow's just achieved in motorsport terms on 2 wheels is unreal. Should it be more mainstream? I'm a petrol head, so I'd love to see it more mainstream, and I think it's worthy of it because it's entertaining. But at the same time, it's all driven by what the audience wants. And I think just touching on sport in general, for me now, watching sport on the TV, whatever channel it may be, I love the interaction with technology. I think we've been able to see so much more now and understand it. I watch different disciplines of sport, and I now get a lot more understanding by linking that technology and seeing what's going on in the back room, seeing the stats, seeing everything that matches up with it. And there's a huge amount more enjoyment.
Someone actually asked, Mark, are you a big fan of Miami Vice? I think it's a sock or lack of sock related question.
Well, it's my era, so yeah. I'm not sure I'm Tubbs or Crockett.
The Tubbs, but there you go. If you went back to primary school, I'll ask all of you this question, Nicola. I'm going to start with you. If you went back to primary school, which school sports day event would you win and why? Sack race or egg and spoon?
Egg and spoon. Hand and eye coordination. That's me all day.
Were you fiercely competitive even in those races at school?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I take my little cousins over to sports day, and if I have to get involved in a race, you can better believe I'll be beating the kids as well.
And when you were in school, what was the sport they kind of identified was going to be your sport? Was it athletics or was it football?
Yeah, athletics. I used to do the 100 and 200 metre sprints as well. I was pretty good at that, actually. It got to a point where I had to decide whether I was going to be a boxer or a sprinter, and chose boxing.
Good choice. Good choice. Robbie, egg and spoon, sack race.
I'd have been that one where you tied your leg.
Three-legged race.
Because I played football like that, so I'd have...
I'd be the same. It was all about picking your partner, and making sure there was a bit of practice done beforehand. So yeah, 3-legged race.
What was the key? Getting someone small you could just pick up and
It's
run
actually just, to be honest with you, it's slow and steady wins the race. It's not about actually going full out, because you're always going to have fallers. It's the ones that just stay the course, actually, the ones that win it. I've studied this at extreme depth. So, yeah.
Sportsmen are such weirdos, it's amazing. Everything taken so seriously. Mark, how about yourself when you were a kid? Motocross, you were a good motocrosser, weren't you? What was your favourite sport?
That's the problem. I never went to school. So Fridays I prepped my bike, Mondays I was washing it down. I can say that now because I've got through it, but not exactly a great role model. But I'd be egg and spoon, hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
I can tell you in the poll, which is closing in just a minute or two, football is winning on 43%, rugby on 22%. So what is it, Brian? What is it that gets people voting for a certain event, a certain sport? Is it the television coverage? Is it the hype we give it? Do we make people believe it's the biggest thing to happen that year, or do they look at the event itself?
I think it's the combination of media exposure, but also I think the enormity of what's been achieved, and I think that's why football is winning out. I know Olympics isn't in the poll, but you'd have to imagine that GB's success would push it very, very hard, and largely because you've got a full nation that have that feel-good factor together. I know everyone is delighted for Leicester that they won, but they'd be more delighted with their own team. But with GB, it's the whole country getting behind a team, and the enormity of their success shouldn't be undershot or underthought. But regarding Leicester, I just think it's phenomenal work. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that we've seen, and yeah, here's to Hull winning next year.
The old press-ups. There, get yourself sorted. Women's boxing, do you think it would make a great TV sport? Is it something you'd like to see on television? Would you like to see a broadcaster pick up on it? What do we have to do to push it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to be able to see that. We've already seen Ronda in the UFC and how well that's done. I just think we need a big name in the professional ranks, and we could definitely break some barriers there, and I think a lot of people will watch it.
I think you're right. But we need to understand the scoring a little bit better. I think there was confusion, particularly with some Irish boxers, a little bit of confusion here and there.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of confusion across the board with the scoring and everything, and it has been quite hard for us to get used to as well, changing the scoring system so much. But I think Aiba's definitely gonna have to work on that a bit better. However, I won, so it's all good.
As a double Olympic champion, do you feel you have a responsibility to kind of promote women's boxing and push it harder? I mean, you're going to be the figurehead for it now, aren't you?
Yeah, I actually enjoy. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy inspiring people and pushing the barriers and getting women's boxing out there. Just because I'm so passionate about the sport, like I absolutely love boxing. I've watched boxing since it used to be shown on BBC and back in the day with the Frank Brunos and Mike Tysons, and it's so exciting to watch, and I'd love the women's boxing to maybe even come back onto these free view channels and and really light up the weekends and have some amazing exciting fights on there.
Yeah, it would be great.
I think the coverage of the Olympics was, and the way the commentators and it was presented was fantastic, because you learn about different sports, and it was a point in the diving when you turn the telly, you don't understand it at all, and after 4 or 5 rounds they've explained it so well to the commentators, and then by round 6 you're saying, no, he was half in the water, he was falling wrong.
Too much splash.
And but I couldn't understand the score in the boxing, because I watched the Irish in the final. Was it Joyce? The big guy in the final.
GB.
The GB.
Joe Joyce against it.
I was watching that, and I thought
slip there. He probably should be Irish.
I thought he
was.
I didn't get the score in the boxing.
I think what it was a lot of Joe's punches were landing on the gloves, so he was working really hard, but a lot of them were on the gloves. Whereas the French guy, even though he didn't throw as much, what he did throw was quite accurate, and you could see the scoring shots. Joe's head was going back, and I think that's where the judges swayed a little bit.
What did you make, Brian, of the Irish boxers, and Conor in particular, just like his outburst after he felt he was unfairly
we went
judged?
over with very high hopes. Our boxers were going to be the ones that were going to provide the medals for us. In the end, we massively underachieved. Particularly, we won gold with Katie Taylor in her division in London 4 years ago. So, yeah, it was massive disappointment. I suppose you always want to conduct yourself, in a proper manner, irrespective of how the how the decision goes. But you know, Michael Conlon, who felt very, very hard done by in an outburst, let the judges know in no uncertain terms as to what he thought of their decision. And it's very difficult for someone that feels that they've been really wronged after 4 years of hard work, and all of a sudden their Olympic dream is finished. He has a bronze medal, I think, and he really felt that this was his chance to win Olympic gold. And in his situation, his competitor had to withdraw from the semi-final, so to speak, match because he got such a hiding in his fight, but yet he still won it. So it seems a bit incredulous and must be hugely hard to take from Michael Conlon's point of view. But at the same time, you know, sport is full of bad calls, and sometimes you just have to get on with it, and you know, life goes on.
Yeah, it's the drama of it though, isn't it? 4 years for one moment in time. It really is difficult. I have to say my moment at the Olympics was from diving when my 5-year-old screamed at the television, "Dad, he's over-rotated." When sport's done properly and explained clearly, you buy into it. That's what's so wonderful about it. Nicola, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really good having you, and just so many congratulations from everyone here. We hope you have a wonderful career. In saying that, these 5 people in the room don't think that boxing was the great British sporting moment as voted by the Edinburgh Festival. They put it 5th, Formula 1 5% in 6th place, cycling 4th with 8%. The Davis Cup wins. 16% of you in the room think that was the great British sporting moment. Rugby 22%, Brian and Robbie and everyone in the room, you won't be surprised to hear, because it was the greatest ever stories told in football. Leicester City's Premier League win, voted for by 43% of you as Britain's greatest sporting moment of the year. A big thank you to BT for bringing us all here today and having a good old chat. Mark, thank you so much. Brian, Robbie and Nicola, thank you again. And thanks to all of you for your time and your questions. Have a good festival. Thanks very much. Take care.